we also should be worried about how to defend wealth that we already have. And that is exactly where we miss out. I think I wrote a paper to the government of India also. If you look at a growth story of the Indian economy, we are very happy with a 6 to 7% growth. And we say we're the fastest growing in the world. When in reality, we are growing at over 10%. The 6 to 7 is because of the leaking bucket that comes down to 6 to 7%. No? And I'll talk about this, how this works out, why we are growing at over 10% as a country. But what you see is a 6 to 7% growth, and what you feel happy about is the leaking bucket of what you can't defend in terms of what you miss. And that pulls down the growth story of the economy. If it can pull down the growth story of a country like India, no, in the economic perspective, it can also pull down your growth story if you're not adequately covered for the leaking bucket in your life. But that is a different story. We'll talk about it. Let's talk about something more interesting. How many of you have heard about, in the US, the CEO of one of the largest health company got shot? You heard about that? Most of you would have read about it. He got shot. Well, he got shot, that is sad. But the sadder part was the person who shot him in the social media actually became a hero of sorts. And a lot of people started saying that he did the right thing, and there was a book, and the bullet also had some marking which said that on rejection of claims, that is what it was. And the funnier part was that he didn't even have a claim. So when you look at the scenario of one of the most powerful health company of the world, it's in the Fortune top companies, the CEO gets shot by somebody who doesn't even have a claim, and the social media in US makes that person a hero. It's there. After that, when you look at the Indian market also, you had quite a few stories coming up in terms of health insurance, which is there. And that's why when I got this chance to speak, I thought let's talk about health insurance today, and let's talk about the reality, the mindsets, and what exactly it is there. And I'm also happy to take a few questions, though we have 20-odd minutes. If any kind of apprehension, any kind of mental barrier which is there, very happy to take that, because I thought this is very, very critical. But let me start with my own story. When I started this job, I entered into the insurance field about 33 years back, and I had no intention of joining insurance. I'm a scientist by education. I wanted to be a scientist, but then landed up in an insurance company, spent some time, and I loved it. And when you get your first salary in my era, what would you do? You would go and buy something for your parents. I think that is what everybody did, buy some shirt or some sari for your mother. But I was so fascinated by the products that we had, so I bought for my parents a health cover, and I also bought a home insurance cover. And I was so excited. On the dinner table, I gave it to my parents and said, this is from my first salary. I bought you a cover, an insurance cover. Now I have to give you a background. My father was in the police services, and I give him this government officer, and I give him this cover of first home insurance. He asked me, what does this home insurance do? I said, if something goes wrong, if some burglary happens, if somebody breaks in the house, it's covered. If your luggage is there, it's covered. And then he looks at me and says, I'm in the police myself, and you expect a burglary to happen at a home. It's very interesting. And he said, what does this health insurance do? I said, if you fall ill, if Ma falls ill, and if you go to the hospital, they should cover for that. And he again, smiled and said, I work for the government, and I don't have any sum insured limits. If I fall ill, the government will take care in the best of hospitals in the country. So as it is, I was very disappointed with me joining the insurance industry. So he said, I realize your intellect, competence, and capability in terms of what is that you would think of. He's not really happy. He didn't speak with me, and then that was my first purchase of any product. But I was happy with myself, because I said it's a good product. There's no harm. And I think I've done a good job. Even if it does not require it, the premium I'm paying for this product is being used by somebody else. The principle of insurance is very simple. A lot of us collect money and pay to a few, where the incident is big. That is how it started. It started way back in London, when you had sailors sitting together, and the ships would go out, and if a ship would sink, the poor guy would go bankrupt. So the friends got together, and they said, okay, if there are 30 of us, each of us will pay 1/30th, because one ship would go down, of the money together collectively. We do not know whose ship will go down. the ship goes down, the money goes to the person whose ship has gone down. That is how syndicate, the Lloyd syndicate got created, and that is how the way you see insurance today got created. No? Money from many gets collected, and to somebody who is an unfortunate instance, that money goes to that person. That is the principal insurance. So if I paid the premium, if I'm not utilizing it, it is getting utilized for somebody else's benefit. So I was happy. I said, we'll keep paying the premium. Fast forward, when my father retired, he had a bypass. And after you retire from government, it's not as it is when you're working in government. So my health policy, which I kept on paying premium for, that is the one which triggered, and paid his claim. And then he was also moving around a lot, so the house also got burgled. And my home policy triggered, and paid that, though I never reminded him of a conversation which is there. The fundamental issue of insurance is, we at times feel that it is not required, which is where the thing, let's say when you're young, and this again I've told many times, I don't know how many of you, when I started working, my mother would be after my life, save some money, because for a rainy day. And I would be surprised, what is this rainy day, like what I'm trying to save money for? Because when I'm saving money, when the salary is less, and you save money, then you miss out on life. Well, at a young age, you miss out on experiences of life, you miss out on seeing the world, you miss out on, on buying stuff you require, because you're busy investing money at a very early age for a rainy day. And now when I think about it, the rainy day would be what? A health issue, a loss of job issue, or something like that, when EMI to be paid. And for all that, there's a very good adequate insurance cover. If I'd taken those covers, my money would have been freed up at a young age for exploring the world or seeing something. But it is very simple, a very low-cost mechanism of freeing up my capital from a rainy day perspective, which would be there. Now, the other thing which I noticed again was, and most of you, when you go to any kind of hospital, do this, because all of us have visited hospitals. I'd be surprised somebody says they're not gone to hospital in their life, even not for ourselves, but for somebody else. Next time you go to a hospital, go and sit or stand next to the billing counter and just watch, do nothing. And you'll be surprised to see, and this I've seen every time, you'll have some old elderly person coming in to be admitted, and you have some people coming with him to admit him, maybe his children, maybe his nephew, nieces, or his cousins. And then the billing counter asks for money. Now, if the person is not insured, then people around him start looking at who's going to pay the money. Now, imagine if we are in that position after working all our lives, building a career for our children, investing everything that we had for them, and tomorrow when we enter a hospital and our children are debating who will pay the money, how would you feel lying down, at that point of time? And people who have insurance, I think they just walk in. And that is where it happens. It's a question of dignity. It's a question of life and death. Simply because if you have insurance, you not hesitate to go to the best of the hospital, to the best of doctors. Even for a minor ailment, you'll feel it's better show to an expert because you're not worried with the cost. You don't have it, you postpone it to a time in which maybe the illness goes out of hand and goes out of control. So it's also a question of life and death. But a lot of apprehensions are there. People feel that insurance does not pay. I think most of my friends, when I ask them, why don't you have insurance? The basic mindset, insurance companies does not pay. I say, that's interesting. What else do you have? It's a big hassle. They say, okay, if you take an insurance, then how do you take a claim? How do you get up with the whole thing? I said, fair enough. What else do you have? Then they'll give some example. This person did not get paid, so insurance companies guys are thugs. And now let me correlate back to the story of the insurance company CEO getting shot in US. Even social media, making the person got shot as a hero. The perception, the facts, and the reality. Let's try to bridge this gap, understand why does this happen from insurance company perspective. So first and foremost, you look at data points. Last year, the Indian insurance company paid close to 90,000 crores as health claims to hospital. And the total, if I look at in terms of the loss ratio, combined ratio, loss plus expenses for insurance industry, it was over 100%. For every 100 rupees premium, they've actually paid 120 rupees in the retail health perspective, which means they pay 20 rupees over 100 rupees that they've collected for insurance, which means the insurance company is paying claims and they're losing money paying claims. So that cannot be reality that they're not paying claims if you look at data points. That's again very interesting. Then the second data point which comes together is if you look at the regulatory norms, it's a regulated industry. Well, you have a regulator which stipulates what has to be done. In a regulated entity, the norms are, let me tell this to you for all of you, so if you have any claim happening, remember the norms. You have to give a cashless approval within 1 hour. A cashless approval. So you go to a hospital, the insurance company, by regulation, has to, there's no option, give an approval within 1 hour of the person walking in, first. Second, some people say, and because we have the retirement thing happening here, that if I'm old, do I get a policy? The insurance company cannot deny giving a health cover irrespective of age. So if you want to take a health cover at 70 years, the insurance company cannot deny giving you a health cover. That is there. If you have any pre-existing disease, no, and if you have declared it, after third year, it has to pay. And even if something you're not aware about, after the 5th year, they have to pay any claim. When you have a reimbursement claim and you walk in to the company, the responsibility of getting documents is on the company, not on you. Whatever documents you could collect, you submitted. By regulations, the responsibility on the company. And the company cannot hold your claims more than 15 days' time. Unimaginable. You put down all the regulations which the insurance company has to operate in, and think about it. Your claim will be paid. Now, in what cases does the claim not get paid? No, because fundamentally regulation is so strong. In 1 hour, cashless has to be given. If it's a cashless claim, in 3 hours of discharge, they have to give the discharge, mandatory. If it's a reimbursement claim, the document collection onus goes on the insurance company. Whatever you could give, you have given. Now it's up to them. In 15 days' time, they have to settle claims. If they violate that, it's a regulatory violation. As a customer, you are so empowered. Then the question comes, which are the claims that don't get paid? And why this disconnect which is happening? See, if you have fallen ill and you take a policy immediately, you have to go for a bypass, and somebody says, take an insurance, it's going to cost you money, or you have been treated with cancer. Now, that point of time, you take a policy, and in the same year, you have a claim, which is as big as this, there's an issue. That claim will be not paid. Now, imagine if insurance companies start paying these claims, then will insurance company exist? It will not exist. Anybody who is going for a surgery would take a policy of 10,000 rupees and get 10 lakh rupees payment. It will never exist. So fundamentally, if you have anything which has gone wrong and somebody tells you the insurance company will pay, don't fall for it. It will not pay. Now, the insurance company suspects that you are going through this and you've taken a policy. That is the time when they put an investigation. That will trigger this disconnect which you have. Now, out of 100 policies, how many of these cases happen? It's about 2 to 3%. 96, 97% claims goes through very, very smooth. Only this 2-3% is where the problem starts happening. So, as a customer, be aware. If something has gone wrong, declare it. The company may give you a cover, minus what has gone wrong for that time. About 3-5 years, that will also trigger in. And the company would be there to say. But if you have hidden some facts, that is where the disconnect starts happening. Second is, if your policy has sublimits on room rent, on doctor cap, the company and the policy will pay up to the limit that the policy has. So let's say the limit of a room rent is 2,000 rupees, and you are admitted in a 5,000 rupees room. The company pays 2,000, then the hue and cry, the company has paid only 40%. The issue is your policy had that limit. So when you buy a policy, take a policy of no limits. You have enough policy. Every company has a policy which has no limits. It may be a bit more expensive than a limited policy, but buy a policy of no limits because inflation keeps on moving up. And the cost of all this is hardly anything. It does not cost more than 10 to 15,000 rupees, which is for a whole year policy. It is insignificant. When you have done this, I'll be surprised if your claim gets repudiated. If it does, I also chair the industry body. Please write to me. I promise you, your claims will be paid. I promise you. In behalf of all companies in the industry, not only about my company, your claim cannot be rejected for any reason other than the two that I mentioned to you. And by regulations, you have so much power. But this friction and this mindset keeps you away from taking a good cover for yourself which at times is the leaking bucket. Let's talk of the government and let's talk of the health insurance. If India had health insurance for all, or forget about insurance, if the government provided health cover for all, India's growth rate would have moved up by 1.8%. How is it there? In India, every year, 7% of India's population goes below poverty line, which means about 10 crore people become poor every year because they can't afford the health expenses. It's actually very interesting. We never think it through, but this is the Niti Aayog data that I'm giving you, not something which I'm giving out from my own side. 10 crore Indians become poor every year because they can't afford health, no? And they don't have a cover for it. Now, to bring 10 crore people above poverty line, it costs 1.5% of GDP. Now, imagine if you had a health cover for all, which I think when you have this 40 crores Indians covered by the below poverty line coverage which is there, you have an ecosystem also which gets created on top of it. You have hospitals opening channels, you have more doctors getting created. You already saw the budget now, we have more 50,000 seats for more doctors getting created. All that propels it to about 2% GDP growth, or something like a catastrophic loss. And developed markets, if you look at Europe, US, they already have health cover for all. So if their economy is growing at 2 to 3%, it is with no leaking bucket. In India, we are and I put this data together even for SME, MSME, what cost does it have to GDP? We actually just not by having health for all, have a fall in that. And individuals go below poverty line when a serious illness happens, because they can't afford it. They sell house, jewelry, and suddenly, at their old age, they have no more employment left with them, and that pushes them down. It is very, very critical for us to be very well covered. As a company, we have close to 35 health products of all sizes. We have products which can help you take treatment anywhere in the world. But for the first time, what we thought was that it has always been a top-down approach. The company thinks, does some research, makes some product, and gives product for everybody, which at times may not be right. We said, let's change it this time. And this time, we launched a woman-centric health product. And we thought, bring it to you because for the launch it was there, and I said, no better way to talk about it than here. And we had women leaders from a company do that product and bring it, and I thought it's best that they introduce the product to you. I'll request Dr. Rita, who is a doctor also, to come on stage, and the women leaders who participate in building it up together, to give the space to speak about it and run that product, and then maybe take a few questions from the audience, and then we, close the talk.
A product for women by women. They saw a gap, a need that had been overlooked. They asked the right questions. They thought about their mothers, their sisters, and their daughters. They built something extraordinary. Because no one understands women better than women.
Women deserve better, right?
Yes, and it's about time.
Because it's tailored for her.
And her. And her.
Anjali, my mother. My sister Dolly.
Pramila, my mom.
Proud.
Oh my God, so excited.
It's personal. It's trust. It's a promise. You always had the strength.
We're just here to care for you.
It's for women, by women.
Her Eisen is here for you.
Do you want to say a few words of what is special about this, which is not in the market currently, that you guys have made or devised?
Sure. Thank you. Thank you, sir, for giving me this opportunity to speak here. This might confuse some of you. but let me rephrase it. This is not just a health insurance product. It is a new dawn for women's healthcare in India. Now, when we think of, women, insurance for women, what do we think of? Okay, we are covered by our families, we are covered by, with our partner or our parents, but how many women, and this is a thought for you, how many women have an insurance cover just for themselves? And this is what we want to bring. We want to empower women to take control of their own health. So when you think of health insurance, what do you think of? The big names like cancer or cardiac. But what about women who know they have cancer in the family? Who know they are at risk of cancer? What about women who will need protection for their future? When we talk about health insurance for women, what do we think of? We think of maternity. That's the first thought which comes to our head is a cover for maternity. But what about women who want to preserve their fertility or struggling with infertility or want to opt for surrogacy or even an oocyte donor? Why should we not support women who want to make these choices? And this is what we want to say, that parenthood should be about love, not biology, which is why we're giving all these options for women that they can make these choices and live an empowered life. Now, when we talk about women's health, it's not just physical, it's mental, it's even societal. So think about the world we live in. We live in a world where crimes against women are rampant. They are in everyday news and we cannot avoid them. So what about offering support to women who have been unfortunate victims of these crimes? So let me go back and say that this is not just a health insurance product. This is a promise. It's a promise to all women here and everywhere that we hear you and we are here for you.
Thank you very much for your time, Peja.